¿Qué tal amigos? ¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos una vez más al canal. El día de hoy tenemos una excelente entrevista. Tenemos a Ryan, que es el Chief Operations Officer, if I'm not mistaken. And bueno, vamos a estar escuchando de Decentral Games, que es un proyecto que me gusta mucho, que sé que tiene una comunidad muy fuerte en español y bueno, tiene inversionistas muy interesantes atrás, tiene muy buenas cosas desde mi punto de vista. Entonces, we're gonna talk with Ryan. Thank you so much, Ryan, for being here and talking to us, telling us a little bit more about Decentral Games and your current state and the future state. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's really great to be with you. Coming to you from Austin, Texas today.
Amazing. How is it warm there?
No, it is very, very cold. So I'm jealous that you were in sunny San Diego.
So, oh, sorry, it froze. It's back. Sorry about that.
Back.
Yeah,
it could be on mine. No problem.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm excited to talk about Decentral Games and ice poker.
For sure. I know, like I said in the intro, like I know there's a pretty large community of players, and you actually they do events for the Spanish speaking community and stuff. So I definitely think that's pretty interesting. And the first question I wanted to ask you is like, how did you get into the metaverse? What's an introduction of Ryan?
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I can introduce myself. So I graduated with degrees in economics and math. 2014, it's about 8 years ago. Worked for doing business development in the books business, then Credit Karma, doing business development, sort of worked there as well. And I made the jump full time into Web3 only about a year ago. So February 2021, but like a lot of people got really invested in crypto in 2017. So I was buying my first Ethereum back then. It was getting interested in Decentraland really early on, and I was lucky to have my younger brother, who's one of the founders of the company behind Decentral Games, who was building within the crypto spaces while I was just sort of on the periphery there, working for these Web2 companies, getting increasingly interested. And as things began to explode, and as Decentral Games released its first set of games, and the Decentral Games token, DG token, the governance token, December of 2020, was advising and then kind of making plans to join that full time. But I started out playing the games myself, beta testing them, contributing to moderating the Discord early on. We now have a team of folks in the Discord when it was really small, just a couple hundred users. And it's crazy to think back a year that Decentraland itself would have 500 to 1,000 daily active users. Now Decentral Games has 10,000 daily active users in Decentraland. Decentraland has around 30,000 daily active users. So, Decentral Games is 10 times bigger than Decentraland was a year ago. So things have really picked up. And so hit the ground running about a year ago within Web3, and have gotten to apply some of what I learned at those like Web2 companies to operating business here. But then also it's just a brave new world with all things DAOs and games. And then we can I'll leave it there in terms of background. I was lucky, I would say, to have some contacts in crypto and to be invested for 4 or 5 years before making the jump.
For sure, for sure. And it's been accelerating pretty quickly since Meta announcement, right? But definitely is interesting to see how it's grown. So can you explain, you mentioned Decentral Games, but can you get deeper into it? What is it? Is it a DAO? How is it structured? What is exactly Decentral?
So Decentral land is open verse. People can build on Decentral Games, a separate entity. We are a DAO. There's the DAO treasury. Folks can go to decentral.games, check us out on Snapshot for some recent governance proposals. And we develop games for the open metaverse. The DAO also holds a ton of Decentraland land and Matic. And I would say that like our closest partners are really Decentraland, since we're building there, and then Polygon Matic, since we've always made our games on Matic, and we're very much in the Matic ecosystem. For example, our NFTs are all on Matic.
Okay.
So we're making games, have a pretty large community, and have recently pivoted. So a lot of people would know Decentral Games, I think, for the blackjack, roulette, the crypto gambling that was available outside of the United States, and some of the unique stuff that Decentral Games did there, where we're still the first and only ones to do this non-custodial gameplay, where we don't take deposits of any funds. You sign a smart contract to interact with, so you sign something to interact with a smart contract behind blackjack. That takes receipt of the funds. The game happens, the results are recorded on chain, and then the contract returns the funds to you, 2x, or takes the funds and puts them in the treasury, the DAO treasury. So that was the first business model. Pivoted away from that. And so now what most people know Decentral Games for would be Ice Poker, that launched in October of 2021, so about 4 months ago, which is a play to earn ecosystem with a few tweaks from maybe other play to earn ecosystems that people are aware of, like Axie Infinity.
Okay, so Decentral Games built this game called Ice Poker.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And does it plan to build more games in the future? Or how does that work?
I would say that we definitely plan to build more games in the future. To date, we've released, before the DG token was even launched, we were building buildings in Decentraland, chess, checkers, backgammon, like board games that weren't on chain in this way, made slot machines, lottery machines, blackjack, roulette. The focus has been really, really on poker, because we think that poker has a really different product market fit than a lot of those other games, because it's social. There are tens of millions of people who know how to play poker. And so certainly going back to like last summer, all of our development work has just been on poker. And right now, what we're working on is building this poker experience centered around the wearable NFTs and earning of ICE on mobile. So we'll have a mobile browser-based experience, because Decentraland is only available on desktop right now. So I would say the focus development-wise is on growing ICE poker, but I can see the ICE ecosystem expanding to include other games that would likely be built by us, but could in theory be built by community members, and the DAO could vote to include them. Okay,
that's interesting. And Ice Poker sounds really interesting. I have not played myself, but I have seen like someone play or people play. But can you explain like deeper how it works? Like, is it just playing poker? Do you need to have some kind of token to get into the table? How are the specifics to play?
Yeah, so The core gameplay is effectively Texas Hold'em poker, but you do need to have one of the ice poker NFTs. You either need to own one or have one of them delegated to you. So if anyone is familiar with like Axie Infinity, for example, imagine like you can either buy your team of Axies or you could be scholarship sort of model. We call it delegation, and it made some improvements to that flow. But in order to sit down at the table and start earning ice from playing poker, you have this either initial investment or you're receiving delegation to the item from someone who made that initial investment and splitting the proceeds with them. And within these play to earn economies, that's important because from a player perspective, every day you just get chips that you are going to play with effectively for free. So you get, say, 3,000 chips, and then your chips performance against the other players, the ice poker tables, puts you in a percentile, and you can earn more or less ice as a result of how well you play. Okay. But you also have to have this other side of the economy where people are investing in the wearables, trading the wearables, and then also spending the ice that they're earning on upgrading them. So I keep coming back to Axie just because I think people will be familiar with it, but the game is actually quite different. In the one sense, poker is a much more complex game than Axie Infinity is. Mm-hmm. But we don't have this super complex breeding model. So there's no idea of breeding your wearables. And in case I've glossed over that, our items are metaverse shirts, hats, pants, shoes, all sorts of stuff that you wear into Decentraland, and that allows you to play the game. Mm-hmm. That are on Polygon. And people spend ice to upgrade those items into better looking items that earn them more ice. And yeah, we have about 10,000 daily active users playing now. And the floor on the items on secondary has become quite expensive. Like the cheapest ice poker wearables are now about 2 ETH, but you can enter the ecosystem for free via delegation, where you'll earn 60% and the person who owns it will earn 40. And when we release mobile ice poker in the coming month or two, we want that entry point to be like 1/10 as much. So it'll still be relatively expensive to own your wearable outright, but not the sort of crypto expense levels where we are cognizant of the fact that like 2 ETH is prohibitively expensive for most people around the world. So that path from bridging like being a delegated player to owning a wearable, we want to have additional avenues for people to own their own items.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting, but we need, or are you looking to build a massive casino for everyone, or maybe an exclusive high roller casino?
Right. I mean, I would say we want to have like, you want to have a product for everyone, right? Like there should be a way for anyone to come in and participate in the community and the game. And so like there are the NFT whales who are going to come in and be like, I want to have 5 level 5 items from the original ice suit, and those trade for like 5 or 6 ETH each. Mm-hmm. And they're just going to drop 20 or 30 ETH on them, or they're going to save up all their ice to just upgrade items so that they have this full collection. You have this like collector sort of group of people that exists across crypto, people buying Bored Apes, the sort of like Genesis Axes. And that's definitely part of the ecosystem. There's also the people who want to buy and play with multiple items so that they can climb the leaderboard and be one of the top players. Like you see that across freemium poker games and stuff, where people will play like Zynga poker for hours every day just to be at the top of the leaderboard with no monetary incentive whatsoever. And then lastly, we want to have like the players who come in with no monetary investment, where they can just come in for free as a delegated player, earn ice. And if they choose to, they could use that to invest in, maybe they earn ice in the metaverse and then they go buy and own a mobile wearable and play on mobile entirely for themselves. Like, you kind of want there to be like components of the economy for everyone, and also upward mobility. Like, you don't want everyone to be stuck, I guess would be an insight. Like, if players feel like they're just stuck as a delegated player forever, then they're probably just going to earn ice and just sell it. And that's what really hurt games like Axie Infinity, where they got 3 million Scholar players and all of them were just earning SLP and selling it, because it wasn't realistic for them to buy a team of Axies and put up. So I don't think we've solved every problem here, but we're trying to come up with as many like avenues to advance as well. So to answer your question, it's we will have high roller rooms. We will have like places for people to play when they have the level 5 items, but we also want there to be like free to enter and mobile to be a lower barrier to entry than metaverse. The metaverse will be sort of flashier, higher paying, more expensive than mobile.
Yeah, for sure. That's an interesting, like, the better you are and the more invested you are, the more you can earn. And not anyone just can win like super easily and just produce, right? I think that's important as well. Who controls the supply of the wearables, how does that manage?
So that's a good question, because that is something that differentiates us from other play to earn games. Like, I think that a lot of these like Peg Axie, crypto mines, they have a model where you can breed your items into existence, and that inflates the supply. But it is also a free market, so it can get out of control into a speculative bubble, but it's a free market. We have much tighter controls on it, I would say, at this point, where we're releasing about 2 sets per month. It's on an ongoing basis. We sort of committed up front to like, here's the emission rate of the metaverse items, and unless the DAO votes to change it, we'll be releasing roughly 1,250 items every 2 weeks for the foreseeable future. So the supply increases linearly of the items rather than exponentially, which potentially causes some problems. But that's definitely an important and like contentious point.
Definitely.
What the supply of wearables should be.
Yeah, for sure. That's an interesting approach that you're doing. And I think, making the DAO decide at some point later, that's cool. But exponentially growth, we're going to see experiments happen, but I think you're building something interesting and different. And you mentioned that you can delegate. So how does that work specifically? So a person can buy, for example, on OpenSea a wearable, and then he can somehow share it with another address without sending it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is another, I think you're asking all the right questions. Another important point where historically the way scholarships have worked is that they're very much trust-based. So like a yield guild pops up, yield guild, merit circle, avocado guild. They get, tens of thousands of players. They create a third wallet. I think it via like a multi-sig. I do think it's fairly secure, but you're trusting them. You're sending the wearable to them. The player's playing out of that sort of address, and they're splitting. They maybe take like a 10% fee, or players are playing directly for like someone who provides scholarships for them, but then sometimes the scholarship manager has them play for 2 weeks and then just doesn't pay them again. So people get rugged on these scholarship deals after weeks of playing. So that's a big risk. And doing it on chain is really challenging. And so this was a decision that was made by our community, that they were comfortable with the idea that delegation would be managed off chain. So ICE itself is an ERC20 token tradable on Matic. You can sell it for USDC. The NFTs are all ERC 721 on Polygon, only tradable, transferable, you sell them on OpenSea, etc. But like the delegation event is something that happens on our backend. So centralized. You go to our site, you have an item, we have a screen on your account page where you can see all your items. You can click delegate or upgrade if you have enough ice to upgrade. And you just copy in their Ethereum address and you delegate to them. And so the item stays in your wallet, but we know that that other address is allowed to play with the item. Okay. And that you're not allowed to, by the way. So if it's delegated to them, only they can play with it. So between the owner and the delegator, it's trustless, but you're trusting this centralized process to do the delegation. But it's also just instantaneous. And because we're able to do that, we automatically split the proceeds every day. So, if the player earns 300 ice, then we just say the player can now claim 180 ice, the delegator can claim 120 ice, and every 24 hours, each party can just claim their amounts, rather than one party claiming the full amount and sending the right amount to the other person. So that's how we handle delegation off-chain, which has all of the positives that I was highlighting, but also has its critics who say that it's centralized, and that's a problem.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting approach. I think it's pretty a clean user experience, and I think that's a good focus to do. It's pretty easy, like you said, and there's no trust between the delegator and the delegated for the profit, stuff like that. I think that's also like some mess for some people that have like scholarships to distribute the earnings. Yeah. I think so. That's a pretty good solution for that. So you mentioned Decentral is a DAO. How does the land ownership work? What kind of assets does the DAO have in the treasury?
So I have the treasury page up now. Anyone can go to decentral.games/DG/treasury and see the assets that are held in there. And the assets are held specifically in dgtreasury.eth and dgland.eth if anyone wants to verify on chain. So we have about 1,000 parcels of decentraland land, which is pretty huge. Purchased those over the last year and a half or so. We also operate a large Polygon validator node, which allows us to reap enough Matic APR on that node to pay for the fees of running that part of the business, because a lot of the stuff does happen on chain. Okay. And so besides the land and the Polygon node, most of the funds are in liquidity pools. So this is something that probably folks who were in like the DeFi cycle a while back, and we're now seeing with everything going on in the world and sort of liquidity drying up, that we used to pay people to stake like ETH DG on Uniswap, and we'd pay liquidity rewards for those people who staked there. Now we've made enough money that we provide our own liquidity on all the dexes. So we provide about $16 million in liquidity across our tokens. For example, 7 million to USDC ICE on QuickSwap, and 4 million to DG ETH on Uniswap, and then a couple other pools. So kind of in order, we've got the land, liquidity pools, Polygon node. We also hold some DG in the treasury, which is pretty common. And we have some stable coins in ETH as well. So anyone can see the complete breakdown there, but we do have $57 million in assets, and about 42 million in assets if you exclude the DG.
Nice. No, that's definitely impressive numbers. Congratulations on that. And
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, how is that managed? Is it like a multi-signature, or how is the treasury managed?
Yeah, so the vast majority of the funds are in a multi-sig. They are, multi-sig is two of the founders plus one investor. Two people have to sign out of the three. There are some operational funds that are controlled in just like a one-by-one backup where our project lead has the keys and someone else, won't say has a backup, in a deposit sort of deal. So that's, I think, the sort of gold standard approach today is to have this like on land come out of those pools. We're not going to end the Polygon node. That should all just stay in the multi-sig and not get touched. If there's like a pool of funds that are being used day to day, then the community can agree that like, okay, we all generally trust like the founder and project lead to not $500,000 to $1 million for operational sort of stuff. So both approaches.
Okay, interesting. And no, thanks for sharing. That's good to know.
Yeah,
and
I think it's pretty common.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about, how do you see Decentral in 5 years? How do you see the metaverse scene going as it is right now, and how do you see it in the future?
And that's a great question. I feel like no one has asked the 5-year one, because you often see project roadmaps that are like 1 or 2 quarters out. Yeah. I would say we've sort of forecasted out on the order of like through 2022. So call it, when we published our roadmap, it was about a year. So I can tell you that heavily mobile focused, and just getting a lot of things right from like an operations and gameplay perspective within the metaverse, which would not be able to scale a ton over the course of this year. So that's kind of like 1 year. I think beyond 1 or 2 years gets really hard, because it's hard to tell like, what will, what direction we're moving with VR, AR, what the next games will be. What I would hope to see in that like 3 to 5 year time period is that more and more of the development and marketing, community management, all this sort of stuff is like by people that work for the DAO rather than work for entity like issued G token. So I think that's a goal for a lot of DAOs. Like, just to clarify the setup here, you have and this is true, I think, of you could take the company behind Sandbox that issued the Sand token, or Sky Mavis is the company issuing the AXS token that develops the Axie Infinity game, and then you have like the Axie DAO. We have a company that we employ a lot of people out of as contractors. We have a team of about 40 people that over time you would have incentives in place for, let's say, like a grants program, or a way for like someone else who's not even directly being paid to like make a game that then they could tie within our ecosystem. So if we had 100,000 millions of users, like, would like to see people making games. And that's there's the vision all along for this idea of decentral games, is that we would build on Polygon. The smart contracts are all out there. So someone could fork those games. So it's really the power of the community and the people who are involved in it. So I would say I don't know what the games are going to be in the future. I don't know if they're going to be VR or if we're going to have like augmented reality glasses and you're going to be playing poker like in your living room on an augmented reality table. Like I don't want to speculate there, but I hope that in like 3 to 5 years, this community is building more of the games. The development takes place by the team right now, basically. And we're a year in, December 2020, a little over a year in doing this stuff. So it's hard to say we've been doing it for a year, what will look like in 5 years, but we hope to get more decentralized in the development.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm definitely excited for no coding tools maybe to develop games. And definitely excited what you said about mobile. I think it's definitely really important. So I think it's good you're focusing there. I'm excited to see what you come up with. And maybe to close, I wanted to ask you, what trends do you like? I see that you like the Bored Apes. Do you like PFP, NFTs? What are you seeing something that you like currently?
Oh, good question. So back in June, July, the Bored Ape Yacht Club reached out to Decentraland to help them build something. And since we had a lot of experience building buildings and stuff, we worked with this other group called Meshroom. We made a riverboat casino. And we still host the Bored Ape Yacht Club casino. No longer has tables in it. It's a long story. But that's how I got into apes. So I was never a big profile picture guy, but I got to meet the Bored Ape Yacht Club founders. And they were really impressive. And so I bought some apes and traded up to a trippy ape. So got very lucky there. In general, I haven't mentioned a ton of PFP projects. I also missed the punks, even though the two founders of DG told me I should buy punks in like 2018, 2019. And I still missed it. So no excuses there. In terms of trends, I would say I'm bullish on play to earn, particularly on Polygon is probably where the most stuff is happening right now. Like a lot of people are rightfully bullish about Ronin. Ronin has millions of users. Axie Infinity, they're talking about sort of what I was mentioning, that people will build games on Ronin and inherit some of that player base. I don't see that happening like, in the next sort of few months. Whereas if you look on OpenSea right now, at the top projects on Polygon, there's a bunch of, Zedrun is still going on. Pegaxie has reached pretty large user base. Crypto unicorns. I don't mean to give, I'm not like suggesting that your audience invest in like any of those projects in particular, but just look at the number of projects building play to earn ecosystems on Polygon that are reaching thousands of users quickly. And try and find a couple of them early on, a game that's fun. Try and get invested in some of them early on and start earning the tokens, whatever the economics are. So, and then of course, check out Decentral Games. That's my shameless plug. Start playing ice poker, or pop into our Discord and see what we're all about. We also host events with like comedians and musicians and stuff all the time in Decentraland, so you can just come in and listen to some music as well.
Amazing. I heard really good things about your events in Decentraland, so I'm gonna hit one up the next one. And how often do you do these events?
Every week, multiple times a week, some bigger than others, but we are some weeks it might just be our own like free play competitions and like the DJs and stuff that we bring in on a regular basis. And then other times we'll have we had the Mutant Cartel in 2 days ago. We had Comedy Decentral with some comedians yesterday. We're hosting the Metagoons, which are a guild, this Saturday in like 2 days, just to give some examples. Like, we'll toss their art up on the walls, and then often, and the way we're able to do this is we built like the back end infrastructure. that often these parties come in with a bunch of NFT assets, images, music. They have a live musician who wants to stream in. So it's no work for us to just plug in the art, graphics, links to the NFTs. I don't want to say no work in case our events manager is listening. It is work, but we're able to turn the place around like within an hour between events sometimes. So all the time, go to events, Decentraland's events page. I forget the name exactly, but you can find some cool stuff going on.
Amazing. Well, Ryan, I really appreciate your time that you came here and talked to us about this amazing project. I really liked it. I've never played myself, but I know that deep dived into researched it and it looks really well. So congratulations, and we'll see. I'll keep following up with everything, and hopefully I want to see mobile.
All right. I'll hit you up when mobile goes live if you don't see it. And thank you very much for having me on. Have a blast.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Ben.